Hey there, everyone. Welcome to our content lesson for today, focused on finding and citing evidence, all in preparation for our essay. A couple of announcements. If you have not completed assignment number 27, the stereotype survey, you need to get that done as soon as possible. After this Friday, we will not be accepting it. If it is a 0 in the gradebook on Friday, then it is a 0 forever. And don't forget that our Zoom takes place 30 minutes after the start of class. Our learning intention for today is to understand how to find effective sources as evidence and how to properly cite them. You will demonstrate your success in this by completing a practice work cited page that features effective and appropriate sources. Using these sources is the best way to make a strong argument, and being able to cite them is an important part of making your essay credible. Next week, we're going to give you the details and the requirements for your essay. But one of those requirements we're going to go over today, which is the additional research and the citations. One piece of research that you are absolutely required to have in your essay is from the article that we have analyzed. You will also be required to have at least one other piece of evidence from a source that you find on your own. The purpose of having evidence is to prove that your claims and your reasoning are correct and accurate. Even though you do not know what your claim is going to be yet, there are a few things that we know for sure. You know that you are going to be identifying a problem on campus regarding stereotypes. You know that we are going to identify a certain group of students who feel judged based on stereotypes. And you know that you have to recommend something to be done to eliminate that problem. We also know that the article spends a lot of time pointing out that stereotypes can drag down the performance of students. So why do we need to bring the article into our own essay? Because bringing in the article is bringing in an expert to help support your claim. Now, if someone wants to argue against you, they not only have to disprove you, but they have to disprove your expert as well. It also means that your argument is using the ethos rhetorical strategy, and you want to use all three rhetorical strategies, ethos, pathos, logos, to make your essay as strong as possible. So how do we use the article as evidence? One way to do that is to use a quote directly from the article. However, you can't just randomly pick any quote from the article. If you pick the wrong quote, it'll either make your argument way too confusing, or it may even ruin what you're trying to say. And when you quote the article, you need to be quoting the author's words. Do not use one of the quotes that the author puts in there from someone else. When you use a quote, you are saying that you have read all of the information in that source. So you should not use a source that you have not read. And when you use a quote, you have to explain to the audience how that quote connects to your claim. You can't just say, here's my claim. Oh, here's a bunch of facts and a quote from the article. You can figure it out. You want to guide your audience along. You want to help them to understand how the evidence you bring up proves your point. Remember, even though Mr. Stevenson and I are going to be the ones who are reading and grading these essays, we are not necessarily your audience. Remember, your audience needs to be whoever is going to be able to fix the problem that you point out. And your audience probably has not read the article. So you cannot just say in the article that we read. It's not going to make sense to your audience. When you need to quote one or two sentences from the article, you need to say, in the article, how a self-fulfilling stereotype can drag down performance, the author, Shankar Vedantam, says, quote. And if what you want to quote is a much larger section, more than just a couple of sentences, maybe full paragraphs, then you can instead summarize what the author says or paraphrase it into your own words by saying this. In his article, How a Self-Fulfilling Stereotype Can Drag Down Performance, Shankar Vedantam explains how stereotypes can blah, 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 blah. In addition to using the article, you also need to find at least one outside source on your own. In order to do that, You're going to need to do a little bit of research. But remember, you cannot just use any source. You cannot type something into Google, pick the first option that shows up, and pull a random quote from it. It's not going to work that way. Your outside sources need to help prove your specific claim, not just that stereotypes are bad, but whatever it is you are trying to get your audience to do. So, how do we find a good source? When searching the internet, there are a few things you need to look for and some things that you'll need to avoid. When you find an article, you need to make sure that it is from an expert. If you find an article or a post that you would like to use, but you cannot find an author and it does not list who wrote what it is that you're reading, then you cannot prove that it is from an expert source and it loses a lot of credibility. If it does list an author, you might want to take a quick look at who that author is. Do they have a job that makes them an expert, or do they show that they have done their research in that article? You also want to look for articles that have been published. Anything from a newspaper or a magazine has been published. And if it has been published, there will always be a copyright date. Please beware. Just because you find something online does not mean that it is a trustworthy source. Wikipedia is not a source. But if you go to Wikipedia and you scroll down to the references section, it can help you find the actual sources of information. Here are a couple of things that you can do in order to make sure that the sources you're finding are credible. Look for websites that end in one of these four domains: .edu, .gov, .org, and .net. Try to avoid websites that end in .com. .com means that the website is commercial, which means that the company behind the website is trying to make a profit. This means that the information in that site might be biased in order to make money, and therefore cannot completely be trusted. One of the only times you should use a .com website is if you can verify that the site belongs to a valid news organization. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times will all likely have .com in their website. Your essay is required to have a works cited section at the end of it. The point of having a works cited page is so that your audience knows that your sources are legitimate. And if they want to find more information about those sources, then they can go and find that further information. So what I am about to do is going to make me a terrible English teacher. It is one of those things that will get me shunned by all other English teachers. I'm going to show you a very, very, very easy way to create a works cited page. In Google Classroom and in the assignment that you will have posted for today, you will find a link to this website called MyBib. Bib, short for bibliography, which is another word for a works cited page. This is a website that will help you by creating a citation for you. And all you have to do is provide for it the website of the article that you found. Like I said, it's kind of cheating, but I'm giving it to you anyways. The first thing you'll need to do is find a source of information. This is an online copy of the article that we have read and analyzed already. So what you will need to do is click on the URL, which is the website address up here at the top, copy that, and back in MyBib, we'll go create citation. It'll pop up this window, and where it says enter or paste URL, you will Control or Command V, paste that website, and go search. Now, since we put in the URL, it's only going to bring up the one option. And we need to verify that this is actually the article that we need. And yes, it is. So we click on it. If you find an article online and you go to make a citation out of it, and where it says article author, it's blank. If there is no known author for the article, you're probably going to want to find a new article, because you're going to lose a lot of credibility if you don't know who wrote what you're quoting. Also, another thing that you want to make sure is in your citation is this date published. When an article is published, that means other people have read it, verified that the content in there is true, and then released it to be published. There are a lot of things on the internet that are not published, that people have typed up and sent straight to the internet without anybody else looking at it to verify whether or not the information was accurate. Once we verified that we have the important information here, we click on Save down here at the bottom, and it gives us our citation right here. Now we're not done. We have our citation for the article, but we need our other outside source. Here is a New York Times article titled Confronting Asian American Stereotypes. So we would, like we did before, click on the URL, copy that, go back to My Bib, and click on Create Citation. We would paste that URL into the box, click Search, make sure that this is the article that we want, click on it, verify that yes, there is an author and yes, there is a publication date, click Save, and there it is. So now we have a couple of sources for our work cited. So on this website, you are going to go over here and click on Download Works Cited. We'll give you a bunch of options to click from. You're going to want to select the Google Drive option. And then it'll throw down some confetti and say that your bibliography has been saved to Google Drive as MyBib, new project name. And up here, you can change the name of your project to whatever you want it to be. And here's what that document looks like. It has works cited at the top. It has both of our citations for both of those articles in the correct way. And then all you would have to do is copy and paste this at the end of your essay. So for your introductory assignment, you'll need to go to the Classwork tab in Google Classroom and find the assignment number 29, Finding and Citing Evidence Quiz. Remember that you can watch this video while you take the quiz. And don't forget about our Zoom that takes place 30 minutes after the start of class. See you there.